Now behind me here is one of Azimut's prettiest boats. This is the Azimut S6 in the Sportfly variant. So you can see it has got a small sports bridge right on top there, but it barely spoils those lines at all. Really, really attractive boat. Again, it's got that very distinctive Azimut bow, the slightly almost vertical curved bow, slightly squared off at the front, lovely arc of windows, and then those very distinctive 6 rectangular panes that mark that this is an S boat, one of the sport range rather than the flybridge. Now this particular boat in this spec, it's got quite a high spec on it, is about £1.6 million ex-taxes. So this one is in pounds. It is a UK boat and it is here at the London Luxury Afloat show in St Katharine's Docks. So let's go and take a closer look. So first thing to notice on the transom here, that whole area lifts up and you can see there is a garage under there, a tender garage. You can get a Williams 325 tucked in there, and you can see there are rails that it slides up, and this whole bathing platform area drops down. It's a hydraulic platform to ease that passage into the water, so it makes it very easy to launch and recover. You can see there are steps up on both sides. On this side, this goes directly up to the side deck, although there is a little cutout in the dinette in the cockpit there. And you can see this is the shore power cable, so that plugs in there, and there's a little cutout to allow that. So moving on round, and there is a bathing ladder that slides in there, and then you can see the LED lights leading up these steps here. Now, rather nice sort of integrated cleats into the handrails here. They work as both a handrail when you're stepping up, or as a cleat if you just want to tie the tender on there. And you can see there is a letterbox passerelle, so that extends hydraulically out of there to create a gangway onto the dock when you're mooring stern to. And then these concealed fare leads under here, very neatly done. They're so good at integrating even the practical stuff into the design of their boats, Azimut. And here is the main cleat, and you can see a powered winch there. There is a little foot tow button there, so that helps you pull the boat in tight, pull the stern warps in. And again, there's a winch handle down there, so there's always conveniently placed little storage modules for absolutely everything you need. Even there, I think there's a deck shower. There's a deck shower in there, and room for your cleaning gear. And these are the controls for the garage door and the passerelle. Got cup holders there. Now this lovely dinette space, you can see almost square, and then it extends all the way down there, and the flybridge overhang comes right to the end of this cockpit space, so provides really good shelter. And you can see you can zip in covers all the way around there too to create another indoor outside space. So it acts as both. Obviously feels like it's indoors when you've got the covers on, but is of course outdoors, and you can open it all up. And these are a rather nice touch. You can see these glass windows here, little quarter lights. That just provides a little bit of extra shelter, so that when you are powering along, you often get a swirl of wind that comes around that corner, but by keeping that window there, you get this lovely sheltered corner spot in here, so you can tuck yourself in there completely out of the wind and still enjoy a lovely view out the back, seeing the water stream out behind you. Now, very stylish table rather than the usual teak affair. Because this is one of their sports range, it's a slightly sportier look. It's almost like a sort of silver effect carbon fibre matting. I don't think it is carbon fibre, but you can see the weave on that, really lovely finish. And of course that folds over and slides back if you want to have a smaller coffee style table. But again, beautiful stainless steel work, no sign of any welding there, and you can use that as a grab rail or drinks holders again. Now over on this side is the integrated steps to the flybridge area, and you can see that those undo and will swing up out of the way when you want to. So you can keep it very much as an open one level sports boat, or you can use that sports bridge area when you want to. But the reason that swings up, as well as aesthetically making it rather lovely, is that behind here you have also got a grill. So you can see that doubles as the wet bar area. So you can use that as a grill, you can hinge the steps out of the way, you've got perfect access to that, but also it integrates the steps into it, so it all stays nice and neat. Now under here there is an ice maker, And I think it's just a bit more storage under there. And these are of course the steps, and you can see there is a little gate out to the side here, so if you do come alongside you can still make your way out of that gate. The other thing to note while we're here is this little hinge up panel. Now this is a really neat idea. It's just the electrics, but it's the main switchboard for all the electrics, so you can just switch everything on and off just using one button. So when you leave the boat it's very nice and simple. You've also got the option to have a second Helm Station there, so a joystick for the IPS control, so when you are coming alongside you can stand in the cockpit here, and with a perfect view of the transom and the quay you can back right up to it, keeping a really close eye on things. I'm just going to close that up. Now the other thing to note while you're here is that a lot of this top deck is done in carbon fibre to keep it nice and light, and that's an example there, that very fine handrail there, beautifully done in carbon fibre. Now on the other side there is a pull-out drinks fridge, just a little drawer, so you can keep a few beers nicely chilled in there. And then these big sliding doors that go all the way across to give unfettered access into the saloon. So clearly a deck saloon style boat, you can close the whole thing up, have it air conditioned or warmed, however you want to do, so you've got all the options. But then it also opens up and there's a curtain across there if you want to just have a little bit of privacy. If you're moored stern to in the quay, that's a really nice option too. So the saloon itself, very stylishly done, quite a small but neat sitting area over here to starboard. You can see the shape of those lovely windows there, plenty of light coming in through there, and it's quite a sort of masculine design feel if you like. It's quite contrasty. You've got this cream style leather, maybe sort of cappuccino-y style, and then the darker leather seats, but gives a slightly more masculine vibe to the whole thing. It is a sports boat, and I guess they want to maximise that slightly kind of bachelor pad feel to it. But some really nice design touches too. Look at the surface of that. It's almost a kind of snakeskin type effect. It's not, but it's something rather beautiful set in acrylic that gives that finish. And this is a neat touch too. Immediately as you come in, all the switchboards for everything you need is right there. So rather than a slightly apologetic switchboard tucked away somewhere, they make a bit of a feature of it. But really nice. You can see all the wipers, navigation, pumps, everything in there. And then that quite nice little recess if you just want to put a decanter in there or something. Lots of storage space under there, and another fridge freezer. Not quite sure, I think it's a freezer actually, that one, sort of drawer freezer. Plenty of storage. And then in here another very cool little set of shelves, and the stereo itself all tucked away very neatly. Lovely carpet underfoot. And then galley area over to port. You can see there is a small overhead unit there which just creates a little bit of extra storage, but trying to do it in a way that doesn't actually block out your vision, you know, from the helm or get in the way when you're actually trying to drive the boat rather than rustle something up in the galley. This is of course the galley. Big Miele induction hob. Little storage place over there you can stand your bottles up in. It's almost like a slate effect. It's not quite slate, but it looks a bit like it. There's controls for the induction hob. Circular Franca sink. Miele oven. And then the fridges, again, I think you can set them either as fridges or freezers, but 2 drawers in there. And that's nice to see. There's a little lock so that you can close them up at sea, so they're never going to slide open. And bin there, and cutlery style drawer there. Now if you're thinking, well hang on, where do all my crockery go? They've thought of that. That goes over here in these beautifully fiddled drawers. You can see absolutely everything, even the serving dishes have their own little unique spots, as well as all the obviously coffee cups, it being an Italian boat. Look at that, it must cost more to make the actual fiddle for that than it does the mugs themselves. But very beautifully done. And of course all the plates. I think that cutlery normally sits in one of the drawers up there, but all the plates again beautifully lined in silver. They do it very, very well over in Italy. Now here is the Helm Station itself. Super classy. These are the darker chocolate leather seats. Very nicely done. You can see he's got bolsters there. There's electric controls for the seat itself, and these rather nice flip down footrests. So here you can see there is an overhead skylight here. Now, although there is a flybridge, they leave this section open so that you can have a proper sunroof in there too. So we've got the shade across now just to stop some of the sun coming in, but that will all open up. So even though it is a sports bridge, like a mini flybridge yacht, you can still have that open feeling. You can open up that sunroof and it feels just like you're on a single deck sports cruiser. Very stylish Helm Station. It's the classic Azimut wheel. Again, that sort of chocolate coloured leather on the outside. Very stylish gloss chocolate finish there in the centre. 4-spoke stainless steel and beautiful glass bridge screens. Not the biggest I've ever seen, to be honest. They're not huge. I'm guessing, not sure, they look like they're about sort of 14 inches or so. Ray Marine, but all touchscreen, so you can touch on that. Go onto the dashboard. You can see you've got your black water tank, your grey water tank, your fresh water tank. You can play with absolutely everything. That's the air conditioning for the main deck. You can have a look at the battery status. So all on a touch screen, and of course you can choose, whether you want chart and radar, split it exactly how you want. And of course then there's the Volvo Penta controls for the engines themselves. A couple of, if I'm honest, slightly cheap looking little air vents, but very nice to be able to control that and steer where you want the cooling air going. You've got the standard Volvo controls. Now there's a bit of a secret which I'll show you later, because it looks like it's a classic twin controls, but you'll see in a minute there's a little bit more to it than just twins. And there is of course the joystick for those IPS engines. You can swivel the boat on the spot, you can make it go sideways, forwards, backwards. Makes it really easy to control. Now it's nice to see a little opening window section here too. You can see that just opens up, so you can get some fresh air in there. You can get some fresh air and you can obviously communicate with the crew, which really helps too. So nice to see that. Very lavish cream carpet. You're obviously going to have to be a little bit careful with your wet feet in there, so hopefully you remember to leave your shoes outside, otherwise you're going to be leaving damp stains. So then down onto the accommodation deck, just having a little look through these two big screens. So it's not quite a single piece screen. There is this central mullion here, which might get in the way a tiny bit, but to be honest, when you're sat at the helm, you have a pretty good view there. They are very steeply raked, these screens. So even though they're enormously long, it's quite a thin section of it that you're looking through. Big wipers though, keep them nice and clean, and a really good view around the stern. You can see what I mean by having that relatively low eye level unit there. That doesn't block your view aft at all. Now coming down onto the accommodation deck, let's go forward to start with. So this is the forward VIP, very stylish, very classy. We've got the blinds down here, but you can see that those obviously lift up, and then you have those bow windows letting a bit of natural light in, and there is a hatch there that will let in more natural light. We've got the bow sun cushions on there at the moment, but also acts as a hatch if you want to get a bit of fresh air in, pass your bags down through, or if you really need to, you could crawl out through there. Now, clever mirrored screen here. That is in fact a TV behind there, so when you switch it on that will turn into a TV, but it's a rather nice way of doing it, but keeping the TV nice and discreet. Storage behind here, and that rather classy, again, sort of chrome effect finish. They're always big on their limed oak at Azimut, and that's no different here. Really nice finish to those. Just gives it a slightly more informal sort of vibe rather than a high gloss finish. Now there is of course an ensuite here, so come through this door, and there we are in the ensuite bathroom. I say ensuite, it is actually a dual access, so you can access it from there too as a day heads, but you can lock that and then keep it private. Walk-in shower as you'd expect, not huge but large enough, and of course behind the door there is a toilet tucked down there, little opening port, and of course a walk-in shower. So very nice and calming. You can just hear a little bit of slap from the water down below, and that's always one of the disadvantages of being in the bow cabin. Because of the bow chines, you do get a little bit of slap, particularly when you're at anchor and facing into the wind. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can just hear it gurgling away. I find it quite relaxing, actually. Right, let's go back out. So we've already seen the access through this door into the day heads, if you want to use that as a day heads. Now over to starboard, there is the guest cabin. Now this is set up as a twin. You can see there are 2 beds there. They are quite narrow at the foot of the bed, if I'm honest. They get a little bit wider towards the head, so there is enough space to lie down, but you probably want to put children or teenagers in there if you can. But again, the nice thing is you have these big hull windows here, so even though it's not the largest of cabins, you don't feel too cramped because you've got lots of natural light, you've got an opening port, you've got plenty of standing headroom here, no shortage of headroom at all, and then cupboard there. All of them have their own controls for the air conditioning, lights, etc. And then come back down here and into the owner's cabin. Now I really like the way they do these at Azimut. Rather than having an island bed on the centre line of the boat, they offset it into the corner, so it's tucked onto the sort of starboard corner facing towards the entrance here, but it gives you a bit more footroom all around the bed, so there's a bit more space to sit and get changed or move around. Just makes it feel a little bit less cramped. And then here are these lovely little array of rectangular windows. It's a real trademark of the S-Class series in Azimut. Just have that block of 6 windows, making it really distinctive and just giving it a bit of a different flavour and vibe to the rest of the boats. Now this is a rather nice little breakfast diner area. See the 2 little corner seats, really comfy, very stylish table, and you can see that each of those lift up. It's a little gas strut, so you can have your little his and hers arrangement. One has a mirror on it, presumably for doing your makeup, and the other is just a little recess. Maybe you want to, I don't know, put your laptop in there or your expensive watches. Rather nice. And then behind this panel, I hesitate to call it a walk-in wardrobe. It's not quite as big as that, but you see what I mean. There's hanging space, there are shelf space, there's a safe down there, and room for a couple of extra pillows. But all lit inside. Here's that very nice kind of snakeskin finish under acrylic there. Lovely bed. More mirrors down that side, and of course that's a big TV behind there too. More storage in there. Big storage area under the bed, big drawer. And there's one more little secret. We open there, you can see there is a full-size washer dryer. So just in the entranceway to the owner's cabin, that is situated there. So you can do all your washing very conveniently. And of course, ensuite bathroom too. And this one has a much bigger walk-in shower. You can see there is a rain shower up there. A seat too, so you can actually sit down and wash yourself. Rather nice. Big mirrors, and again the blinds are down, but there is a porthole there. Classy glass basin, loo. Very nicely done, but considerably more space than the VIP bathroom, as you'd expect. Right, let's make our way back up. Take the opportunity to go onto the fly deck. So you can see how the steps are recessed in there, and then this lifting section that swings up. But let's make our way up here. You can see those act as a handrail as they help guide you up. And here we go up onto the fly deck. Now this is really what you use a fly deck for on a sports boat like this. It's to be able to drive outside, and you've got a lovely helm position here, mirrored controls. You've only got the one screen here, but it's the same Raymarine touchscreen, same wheel, same throttle and joystick setup, and you have got a bow thruster too, so you can actually just nudge the bow thruster in and out if you want to do that, rather than rely on the IPS pods themselves. And the rest of it is really just a big kind of sitting sunbathing area. It's very low level. You can see there's not a lot of space there, so it is really lounging rather than sitting, but it does mean that you've got a really nice big outdoor space where you can drive the boat from, you can entertain, or at least you can keep the skipper company. And you can see there's a big bimini hood there. We've got that up at the moment, but that all folds away if you want to really get the full sun and wind in the hair experience, or you can pop it up to provide a bit of shade. And there you can see the bow area. We'll go and have a quick look at that in closer detail, but quite nice to see it from up here and get a feel for it in the layout. You can see how tall the guardrails are and that unusual slightly squared off bow. You can see the shape of it from here, but let's go and take a closer look at that. So I'm going to have to go backwards down these steps because they're a little bit too steep to face forwards, but that's not a problem. So side decks, you can see you've got a couple of steps up here, and then under that teak panel you've got access to the fuel tank. Nice to have it tucked away there because it's very easy to spill a bit of diesel and you don't want that going on the teak, so it's nice to have it recessed under there so you don't get it on the teak. Good tall guardrails running all the way around the outside. It's a wire on the second level rather than a second solid stainless steel one, but you know what, it looks a little bit more subtle like this. Mid cleat there, and here's that big bow area. Now I do like the way that they've got a proper height seat here, so there's enough clearance there to be able to sit very comfortably on that. There's room for, I don't know, 5 or 6 of you facing forward on here, and another big sunbed in front. And it doesn't prop up that, those are just cushions velcroed down. But now you can see the advantage of that squared off bow, because rather than coming to a very narrow peak at the bow, you've got this nice squared off area here, almost triangular sort of diamond shape, but it means there's more foot space to control. You know, these are the deck controls to the anchor, for example. Just means you're not nearly as cramped as you would be on a sort of pointy bow. But of course, on the hull itself, it is pointed underneath. It just flares out up here to create a bit more deck space. There's that hatch I was showing you from in the VIP cabin, and here of course is the anchor locker itself. Lift that up, you can see lots of room for all the chain in there. Obviously an electronic windlass to help pull up the anchor itself, and a big anchor platform roller to keep it all nice and tidy. And of course that goes all the way back down the starboard deck and back into the cockpit. So here's that cutout I was talking about. There's not really proper access through here, but there is a little break in the cushion so you can hop through if you want to. So I said there was a bit of a surprise in here, and I think it's time to reveal that now. So let's lift that up, and there is a pretty steep ladder down there, so I'm going to turn myself around to get down there, steady myself. You can see it really is a ladder rather than a set of steps. But if we drop down here, we can see the surprise, and that surprise is not 2 but 3 engines. So there are 3 Volvo IPS 700 engines. So I think they're 550 horsepower each, and the point of that is by having 3 smaller engines rather than 2 big ones, you save a lot of space, a certain amount of weight, and the whole thing becomes more efficient. So although you've just got the controls for 2, they are controlling all 3 engines. I think most of the steering is probably, oh no, I think they do all 3 steer because they're all on steerable IPS pods. So that does mean that there's not a lot of clearance room over that central one. You can see that is the tender garage for that little Williams 325, and it does mean there's not a lot of clearance above it, and not a lot of space between the 2 engines, if I'm honest. But they are considerably smaller than they would be, which makes them more efficient, less expensive to service, less weight to carry, and of course less length, crucially, which means that there's more space for accommodation forward of that. But you can see they are quite neatly laid out so that all the things you need to get to, for example, we've got the fuel strainers here, nice glass bowls you can see, and of course they are a switch over set, so you can go from one to the other. Whilst you're cleaning one, you can switch over to the other. Got the raw water strainers, got the outside ones here, the middle one there, and the outside one again over there. So all those things that you need to get to on a regular basis are brought forward so that you can access them. It's only the engines themselves that are a little bit less accessible, though you can get around the outside of these. See if I can just sneak down. So there we go, you can see there are the pods themselves. A little bit dark, I don't know how much you can see, but we've got one pod there, so that's at a bit of an angle on the side of the hull. That's the one in the middle, which is flat down, and then the other one you can just see poking through there. So you can get to the outside of these edges. It's really that central one that's a little bit trickier to get to. But we've got all the electric controls here, got all the pumps, that's the air conditioning. You can see it's all nicely marked. Got the bilge pump down there. Nice to see a glass top to that too, so you can again make sure there's nothing clogging up that raw water filter. And over on the starboard side, there's the main generator, and there's the third engine tucked down there. So with those three IPS 700 engines, it should give you a speed of around about 35 knots, which is pretty impressive for a 30-ton boat of this size. And the benefit of that is that, as well as speed, you get a pretty impressive range. So slightly depending how fast you're going, but if you're going around about 30 knots, you should still get around 270 miles range. And if you ease that down a bit to around about 20 knots, then it's more like 300 miles, and so it goes drop off the plane and you'll get more like 500. So there you go. I'm just going to drop that down again. Don't want anybody falling down that hole. There we go. And let's finish off here in the cockpit where it all began. That is the Azimut S6. I hope you enjoyed the tour. Thank you very much for watching. Do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the little notifications bell so that you'll be notified whenever a new video is published. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next one.